That Brad Marchand trade has worked out okay for Florida, I guess.
Oh my, has it ever? Has he has impacted on and off the ice, his presence, his ability to handle pressure. He fits in perfectly with this team, and it has worked well. And you know what? It's worked well for the Bruins. You've added a draft capital to your amount in the next, what is it, 5 first rounders in the next 3 years, RJ?
Yeah.
It's worked. If he wasn't going to sign and you get the most for it, at least now it's got the first round pick back.
Does this make you look at Marchand differently? Just how seamlessly he's fit in with Florida. Do you look at it in other words, Billy? Do you say, well, yeah, it just happens to be the perfect team. He's a third-line guy with Florida, and he couldn't be that here. Or do you say, wow, he's got a lot more in the tank than I thought he did when he played with the Bruins?
No, I think it. Look, this doesn't surprise me. You mentioned the third line along with 2 players that Bruins fans know well. I don't know if the average fan know the names of Anton Lundell and Eetu Luostarinen very well, but they're outstanding hockey players that are slotted perfectly. But Michael, they didn't have the offensive gusto that they get by playing like now with Brad Marchand. He has pulled it out of them, I think, literally and figuratively, or I should say figuratively and then actually literally. He has challenged them to be more offensive at times, and the coach, Paul Maurice, and his staff have loved that. You make a point. It fits perfectly on this third line because of the matchups they get. Yet, he's also he's playing with some real, robust attitude out there, which it's playoff time, though. This is when you bring it like this. You can't bring it like this all the time during an 82 regular game season because it's just not possible. But I think that he definitely has stuff left in the tank. There's no question about it. How much overall, who knows? He's obviously healthy now. Remember, he had those 3 surgeries that he had to deal with before that. That takes a while. He had a real good run at times this year for the Bruins, but this team was nowhere near as good as what the Florida Panthers are. So he's still got a lot left in the tank. I don't know how many years. I know he wants to play for a couple more, but he's got to get stuff left in the tank.
How much do you think it impacts him as he potentially goes to free agency at the end of this year if he doesn't end up staying in Florida, or if he does, how much has his playoff success impacted, do you think, what teams might be willing to offer him if he does in fact get to free agency?
I definitely think it has helped because I think there's going to be a couple of teams that are going to say, we are a Marchand away from being a really, really good team, but you have to go in with the expectation. You know that, again, over 82 games, this is really the same for any player, but especially a player who's over 35 or he's 37. You can't expect the regular season to be, you can't expect 80 points. You're talking 50, 60 points, and then you're saying we're getting him for leadership moments. We're getting him for, second power play. We're getting him for, helping guide young players, and then we're getting him for the playoffs. But RJ, absolutely think it sure as heck can't hurt, what he's doing, and you're seeing it. Now, you're seeing him, like, you're going on breakaways against some of the fastest players in the NHL, and I wouldn't call him the ultimate speed demon, but he's really smart. His anticipation is sublime. He's not cheating the zone, but he is reading the zone and reading the play. He had Leon Draisaitl coming right after him in overtime, and he was able to utilize his body to shield the puck, go to backhand, and get it by Stu Skinner. So he's still showing that he's got speed, and he's got that ability to do high-level things at pressure times.
RJ and Billy, you know how it is when whatever your favorite sport is, when you come to that final round and the reality right around the corner of this is going to be over, you got to deal with that post-sport depression. It sucks when it's over. So I'm wondering, because I hope this is sustainable, but Billy, tell me if this is realistic. First 2 games, overtime. It's been great. The composition of this series, are we going to have 5 more games like this? Do you think we got Game 7 where these teams are this close and it's going to be this competitive throughout the rest of the series?
Michael, I'd love to. You're smarter than I am. What's a word better than great? Phenomenal? I mean, these first two games have been unfreaking believable to watch. And I have an RJ. You said, you brought up. I'm doing the national radio on Sports USA. That's on the hub. I'm doing it from behind the glass ringside. It is amazing to watch this. You realize how special these teams are, and how the rematch has absolutely fueled even more passion for than a regular Stanley Cup. Can they continue to bring it? I sure hope so, Michael. I do, because that is amazing stuff. And I think that there are, because, Michael, on each team, you have players that are pushing that ultra uber star level. We know about Connor McDavid, and he is just glorious to watch. His edge work, his acceleration, his ability to protect the puck, et cetera. But then you've got Draisaitl and, Evan Bouchard this year. I wouldn't call him an uber star, but he's turned himself into a star player, the defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers. Just using those three players alone. And then you go to Florida, and, you've got the Barkovs, who's been a little bit quieter offensively, and Reinhart too. I look for them to be a little more available or noticeable, perhaps. Reinhardt's name we called more in game 2, so he could be on the verge of breaking out. But you've got these players and these teams that are so deep, and they seem to have this they seem to be willing, Michael, to trade punches, so to speak, okay? And because of that, they're not playing cautious. And that means that we get these games that are a little bit more open than we've seen, and the intensity is off the charts. Can they physically do it? I don't know. They've had 2 days to rest here. They're going to have 2 days to rest before game 4. That's going to help. Let's see if mentally they can do it as well. But I sure hope so. From a broadcaster and fan perspective, Michael, it's phenomenal.
Ultimately, I guess my question going into the final, as it probably was last year too, is as talented as the Oilers are they talented enough in goal to win this series?
I think so. I do. My question more than anything, and no question, Stu Skinner, he doesn't look nearly as pretty or as athletic, because he's not, as a guy like Bobrovsky. But Bob's had one or two go through him that he might say, okay, I could do this better. But they've both been great at times in this series. Their defense in front of them, RJ, is so much better than it was in the previous year or two. And so Skinner has to do it his way. I wonder, and, look, if Skinner has an awful game, and by the way, he's going into Florida, a place that wasn't kind to him last year, and so, does he have memories of that? I don't know. Let's see. He says he's mature. Let's see. I wonder, the big thing for me, Ryan, is can the Oilers replicate what they did in game 1 physically over a 7-game series? Now, maybe they only have to, if you look at it and you break it down, say they only have to win 4, so they just have to do it 4 times. And they were the body contact initiators in game 1 of the series. They put pucks into areas that were very reminiscent of what the Florida Panthers wanted to do. They took the Panthers game to them. I just wonder if they can do that well enough over 4 games to win over a 7-game series, that they can end up getting this one. But that's going to be their challenge.
Billy, I was talking with RJ earlier about Marco Sturm. He's going to give his press conference tomorrow. He's going to be in studio with Felger and Mavs tomorrow as well. If you had to just bottom line it and say what you want to hear Sturm say, what do you want to hear him communicate to the fans tomorrow, what would that be?
Well, and I'm going to be there. I'm heading back for the presser as well. We're going to have some coverage on NESN, so I'm looking forward to that. Michael, I want to hear, first of all, I know Marco, but I don't know him from a coaching perspective. He's got an amazing reputation for guys that have played with them, just about his personality and his demeanor. And I want to hear what he's looking to do with regard to systems and structure. I think he's going to be – I know he's a good communicator, if not a great communicator, which is what, new age coaching you need in all sports, but in the NHL, we're seeing coaches, and I think you guys know this, right? Coaches are barely lasting not even 3 years anymore. So, it's mind-boggling how that has changed over the years. So you've got to really get your message through quickly. To me, I just want to know that, I know Mark. I I'm going to hear this. Marco Sturm is invested. He's a former Bruin, which I don't think, by the way, a little tangent here. To me, that was not the determining factor. I don't know if you, I think you guys would agree, but I won't assume. This was more about his ability to communicate with veteran players because he's been there, done that, and he's just old enough that is also to be able to communicate with younger guys because, again, he's been there, done that, but he's just young enough in his mid-40s that he can do that, and he's had recent experience with the German national team and the German World Juniors. So, I know he's invested. He's so proud to be doing this, and this is his first opportunity. And I think that I go there and I hear what he's looking to do system-wise, structure-wise, talk about that, but most of all, its ability, communicate to get the most out of the guys.
Billy, just kind of going into this offseason as a whole, as it starts to ramp up here very quickly over the next few weeks with the draft, with free agency, and all of that, how difficult a job is in front of Don Sweeney as he tries to rebuild and remake this roster on the fly?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a major challenge, but I think he knows that. I go back to the draft capital that they've accrued in the last couple of months with trade deadlines, and I think that acquisitions. I think that, Ryan, would you agree? It will not surprise me if one or two of the first-round picks that they've gotten over the trades are used in their trades to acquire players that can help them in the now.
I'd almost be surprised if they didn't.
Exactly. You will not, cannot trade next year's number one pick, though, because the draft next year is very good, very deep. You got a couple of stud players, and you got some others. Now, I guess maybe, therefore, you could also take the other look at it and say, well, on the other hand, if you do trade that, you can get yourself back an even better player. I don't know. I think you hold on to it, just given the fact you don't know where your team is going to be just yet. But I think they're going to do that. It's going to be a challenge because, and I haven't broken down the numbers. I will when I get closer to like free agency or maybe to the draft. There's a lot of teams, Ryan, that have some money, just like the Bruins do, right? And the salary cap has gone up, and a lot of teams are working on some expiring contracts. And so there's going to be other teams out there that are going to be battling for a lot of the same players that you are. So that's a challenge. But that's what, management has said since day one of the minute after they made those three trades on trade deadline day a few months ago, that this is a retool, not a rebuild. And so they got a plan, and I'm assuming they've got multiple plans, and they're probably going to be challenged to figure out a way to make it all work. But I think it's going to be a big challenge, but they're up for it.
I read Pluto the day that Marco Sturm was hired, and he had like 5 points or 5 things that Sturm has to prioritize. And one of the things on the list, and I said out loud as I was reading, I was like, well, you don't necessarily need to prioritize this. Figure out the goalie situation with Swayman and Korpisalo. I said, figure it out. Swayman just has to play up to his contract. I mean, I think it's pretty simple there. Am I missing something here? Isn't it just get Jeremy Swayman to look like the guy the Bruins paid an awful lot of money to before last season?
Well, yeah, but yes. I mean, that would, on the surface, that's exactly what you want. And you had Jonas Korpisalo at the end of the year in a very matter-of-fact way saying, he'd like to play more. I'm paraphrasing. And it was a him thing. It wasn't about other guys. So I wonder if that's what Fluto was referring to. But, yes, you start with getting your number one goaltender who should have an incredibly different summer, Michael, than he had last year. And especially mentally. I mean, between that and then just, the knowing that what he's going to do, staying in Boston, all that stuff, getting himself set to have a bounce-back season would be the ultimate number one tonic that I think that would, I guess, cure or help at least the goaltending situation from last year. And then maybe you're just talking about getting both of them, so to speak, on either a schedule along with goalie Bob, and which Bob already has. That's not it. It's just like I'm guessing the Flute is talking about just the communication. I go back to that again between him and both goaltenders and everything just being copacetic with them. But, Swayman gets the world championship, gold medal there. That can't hurt with his confidence. It's a reset, all that stuff. It doesn't guarantee that his next season is going to be, ultra high level, but it sure can't hurt. Let's hope the biggest thing is going to be is he's going to take a little time off. He's going to get right back to training, and it's going to be, I know where I'm going to be. I'm not going to be having to think about what my contract's going to be. I'm not going to be doing interviews, that, weren't received always so great. You're going to just get yourself ready to play goal for the Boston Bruins.
Billy, we'll let you go on that. Appreciate the time. Enjoying listening to you guys on the national broadcast here on the Sports Hub, and 8 o'clock face-off tonight.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. It's a balmy 87 here at whatever time in the morning it is. So
what is what is it? You're in Florida, obviously now. What is the June temperature like in Edmonton this time of year?
I'm going to tell you something, bud. The weather was phenomenal in Edmonton. It was the most, besides that and the arena environment, the most glorious part of being in Edmonton for that long. The weather was great. It was ultimate golf weather, high 70s, 80s, sunny until 11 o'clock at night. That was phenomenal. It gets cool, 50s at night. It's perfect in that regard, or it was.
I've made one visit to Edmonton,
and it was miserable.
It looked like I was in Antarctica. Like it was.
Oh, well,
yeah. I mean,
yeah. A little different in wintertime.
A little bit. Appreciate the time, Billy.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. For more Bruins analysis and opinion, hit this playlist.